Welcome to the Refine and Shine, the podcast dedicated to mastering the art of continuous improvement and optimizing every aspect of your life. I'm Angelina Rivera, your host, and together we'll uncover the secrets to refining our lives, our habits, and our processes to unlock our inner brilliance. Join us on Refine and Shine, where we'll delve deep into achieving more in life without the burnout and without all the stress. This podcast is your platform for a more fulfilling life through continuous improvement and personal growth. In each episode, I and a diverse array of guests discuss practical strategies for up-leveling every aspect of your life. From developing good habits and organizing your space to refining your mindset and personal goals, we're going to explore it all. Our guests share personal stories about the systems they developed or systems they've used and the tweaks they've made in their lives when refinement was needed, allowing them to truly shine. Listen to Refine and Shine to learn how you can implement continuous improvement techniques in your daily routine, develop and maintain healthy habits that lead to success and satisfaction, organize your life to reduce the stress and increase your productivity, foster a growth mindset that propels you to new heights. My mission is to inspire you to take bold action, make positive changes, and become the best version of yourself. Whether you're aiming to elevate your career, nurture meaningful relationships, or enhance your overall well-being, Refine and Shine is your guiding light. With over 25 years of experience in continuous improvement, I help businesses streamline their processes, establish efficient work areas, and implement standard work protocols. I have trained over 600 individuals and teams in process improvement, optimizing workflows, and enhancing overall operational efficiency. Tune in every week as we embark on an enlightening journey, exploring paths to refinement and illuminating the way to shine in every area of our lives. Subscribe now and join us on this journey to polish your life and let your best self shine through. Thank you for joining us on Refine and Shine. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Refine and Shine podcast. I am super excited for my guests today. They are amazing. They were at an event that I did not get to hear them speak because I was working the event, Amberly Lago's event in April, but I got to hear them speak in person in just this past month. And oh my goodness, their story is amazing. So I want to welcome my guest, Jordan Mendoza, and let me read a little bit about his bio. He's so amazing. He's a founder and CEO of Blaze Your Own Trail Consulting, LLC, where he helps service providers grow their business through strategic marketing, sales, and leadership consulting. In April of 2019, Jordan started creating content on LinkedIn and quickly realized the power of organic reach. By December, he had amassed 20,000 followers using the strategy he now teaches his clients in his 12-week program. Since 2019, his content has reached over 7 million content views, and his audience has expanded to 64,000 plus followers and 17,000 newsletter subscribers. He's now a full-time trailblazer. Jordan's goal is to help over 100 entrepreneurs and companies grow their brands to increase their impact and income each year. He's also an author, a keynote speaker, host to the top 1.5% ranked podcast, Blaze Your Own Trail. Thank you, Jordan, for being on today.
My pleasure. I'm excited to be here, and my goal is always to be able to add value to the audience. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We were talking a little bit offline, and I just want to talk a little bit about your personal growth and journey to where you are today.
Yeah. It's been a long journey. Anyone that resonates with, blazing a trail or being a trailblazer will resonate with the fact that, there's going to be some adversity. There's going to be some hardships. And what really matters is, like, are you going to get back up? Because it's easy in life to get defeated. And I'll just kind of paint a picture for your audience so they can see, kind of where I've come from. And then, of course, you read some of the stats and things like that. And it doesn't mean that that's where you have to stay, right? We can come from a place that might be hard. So what my story looks like is, I grew up with a disabled mom, a mom that had one lung, and she was born in the 50s. And back then, the basically the hand that she was dealt was not going to live past 18, not going to be able to have any kids. And so, as you can imagine, my grandmother starts with this new young baby, and that's kind of what they told her. But as you know, seeing it was so
Mhm.
awesome to be able to hang with you in Bear Lake, Utah recently, and you heard me kind of sharing my story that she was a big fighter. She wasn't gonna take that hand that she was dealt and say, you know what, all right, well, I guess it is what it is. No, she still tried to provide for her family best she could. She couldn't really have a whole lot of jobs. Eventually was on oxygen a lot and was sick a lot and almost died multiple times when I was a kid. But just seeing her tenacity and how she lived her life with joy, with kindness, had a great sense of humor. And as we were talking offline, she's really the person that got me and my brothers all into sports, excited about our local Portland Trailblazers and the Seattle Seahawks, and it really got me going into what sports was. And of course, sports play a big part in my world today, whether that's going and shooting hoops or breakdancing in my garage, and I teach that still, which is a lot of fun. And so I grew up in some tumultuous circumstances, because my mom really couldn't work. We had some government assistance and, food stamps, and I had a alcoholic stepdad who was abusive to her in some cases, and had to really stand up for her, at a very young age. And of course, when you have experiences like this and you grow up in environments, you have to grow up a little quicker than accelerate that process, probably when you didn't really want to, and so I definitely grew up quick, and I had to learn how to be resourceful, and would go out and collect cans to get money and turn those in and for the deposit, and so I could buy candy. And so I've always had this ability to turn words into dollars, right? Be able to communicate with people, have conversations, tell stories, create a narrative. And that's what's exciting about that, is that's really what I help my clients do today, is do that exact same thing. Everybody has a story. We all have things, adversities, setbacks that we have probably overcome. And some of you that are listening to this may be in a season right now, and you're like, how am I going to get on the other side of what I'm going through? And what I'm here to tell you is there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. It may look hard, it may actually physically be hard, or your situation uh, may not be easy to deal with, but we have a choice in how we're going to react, how we're going to respond. And if we can get good people around us and good information, then there is that light that I just spoke about at the other side of that tunnel. And so I just want to be someone that encourages you, because you're going to hear a number of stories and a number of situations that I've encountered. And I want you to know that I had to endure them literally, but you don't have to. You can take some of the lessons and say, okay, if I do come with this certain circumstance, here's maybe what I can do. And some of them you may say, wow, I've actually been through something similar. And again, that's my goal today, is to be able to show you how you can get on the other side of some of these hard things that you may be experiencing.
No, I love that. And you just, every time we talk, you just make me just remember a situation or something growing up, or our lives. And but no matter what we've been through, I also was born I was born at home. I made the newspaper Saturday Night Live, and because I was born literally at home in the projects. And you don't, I for so long did not share that story. And I was like, why, that's who I am. Like, we did live on government cheese. We lived on food stamps, government assistant, waiting in line for peanut butter, handouts. We would go back to school shopping, and I had two older sisters, and we would get different colored shirts. It's because we could only get two pairs of shirts, one pair of short or jeans. That's all we could afford. And so we would buy different colors so that we could rotate. So it made it look like we had more clothes. Just so, I mean, that's what we did. And I don't think that too often people don't share that story, because maybe they're ashamed, or, all of these things. And I just want to know, how did you get to the point where you started accepting your story, and or have you always shared about your story?
Yeah, so I really didn't start sharing my story until my mom passed away, and it actually wasn't right. It was probably 6 years after, because as you can imagine, for those of you that still are fortunate to have your parents, losing losing a mom, and especially for me as a mama's boy, I talked to her multiple times a day. We were very, very close. And then when you go to speaking to her and she tells you she falls down and she's going to be fine, and that's the last time you hear her voice. I mean, that was hard, you know. And so I went through some dark times and a big cloud that was kind of above my head, and I didn't realize that it was above my head until I was out on the other side of it, you know. And what got me through that was having a firm foundation. So, my faith, you know, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and being able to have that foundation to stand on, to know that He had me. You know, although this was a crappy thing at 31 years old to lose your mom, I had community. I had people around me. I had support. I had my wife. I had friends, and that's so important. You know, the biggest reason and cause, we had a speaker come into our church recently, and she helps out with people that are homeless and people that need food, they need access to resources, and she said that the number one cause for homelessness is relational poverty. And so just think about that. It's the lack of relationships with people. And so what I want to tell you is that when we're in these deep and dark places, the last thing we want to do is be around people, but it's actually the best thing that we could do is to be around people, because when we are around people, that are there, that could help us, that could listen to us, that can, in my case, a lot of people praying for us, right? When you have that circle, it's going to truly help you when you link arms with people, get out of your own way, you know, and
Mhm.
start to go through that healing process, because everybody grieves differently. Everybody experiences pain and loss differently. And for me, if I wouldn't have had that support system, I can't tell you, I could still be in that same place at this moment.
No, I think that's so important when you say community. And it's just the same thing when people are going like with depression or and no matter what circumstances, you can't suppress those emotions or those feelings. You have to express them with in a safe space and with people that you can trust and, you know, have that firm foundation, I think is so important. I think that's awesome. And yeah, that's a really good advice.
Thank you.
So how did you with all of the things that you went through in life and you know like you know most people would hear your story or you would hear what they you know and I hear it all the time like you don't understand, I've been through this, I've been through that, and it's like you know I've been through some stuff too, and we have to make the choice, right? And we have to make the choice to show up every day. That's one of like my podcast, my shine principles is number S means show up every day. You got in the you know that's really important. You got to have good habits, things like that. So how did you get to the point where you decided to build an entrepreneurship and develop this leadership program that you have to help others?
Oh, well, I would say that I've been an entrepreneur for a very long time. I just didn't have, an LLC, right? Because as a kid, I mean, I'd sold everything. It started with getting people to literally give me stuff for free, and then it went from there to selling baseball cards, selling sneakers, doing telemarketing. And so I have been in and around sales for over 30 years, which is really crazy to say. Ever since I was 14, I've been doing sales. And actually, since I've been 18, I've been coaching people on sales. So, in different organizations and different capacities. And so, I've always loved communication. Like I said earlier, I've always loved, um, being able to talk to people. And so, I've always had some type of entrepreneurial hustle going on. And a lot of them didn't pan out. And that's, hopefully you all get excited about that, because you're going to have ideas and you're going to have things that you want to do, and some of you are just going to sit on that thing until you're old, and it's going to turn into something called regret. And so what I suggest is, if you have an idea, if your imagination starts to form something, right? We're created to create. We're literally meant to create things. And if that's, you get that thing in that's on your heart or it's in your mind, take a little action on it. Messy action is better than no action. If we actually do something, it may not look the best or sound the best or be the best, but then the good thing is we have that one rep. And that's something I tell my clients all the time. You have to put in the reps every single day. There are days when I don't feel like you're really showing up, but I still have to push through that discomfort, that feeling, because we get very comfortable in life, and it's really instability that creates stability, not the other way around. And so if you're looking for stability, trying to be comfortable, it's actually, you're not going to find it there. You're going to find that growth when you actually step out and you step into something new. And change is not easy, but it's something that has to come from within. We have to want to change, and usually that change happens when people are at their lowest points, right? Rock bottom is the most pure foundation. And sometimes it happens maybe when you haven't fallen that far, but it doesn't matter wherever it is, there's some work that has to be done. And so my advice is just get ready, roll up your sleeves a little bit. It's not just gonna sound like hard work, it is gonna be hard work, but you can do it. You have to stay positive, you have to look at failing forward versus, falling backwards.
No, I think that's so important. In fact, what you had said a couple of things that one, you may have failures, but when we have failures, we got to learn like what are those lessons that we learned from those things? What can we take from it? Because I think that people just they fail at something and they just give up. We can't give up. We have to look at, okay, maybe this wasn't the right thing, but what can I learn from this? What can I take from this? What can I improve on? I do continuous improvement. I'm a black belt in Lean Six Sigma, and I'm always looking at like processes and like how can I like, okay, this didn't work. What is the wrong? Like get into the root cause of things, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. And then the other thing that you talked about was your mindset. You just have to have the right mindset. And so tell me, how do you get yourself ready to have the right mindset every day?
Yeah, so for me, it's like 5 a.m. and I'm gonna walk my dog and I'm listening to Christian hip hop because it's essentially I'm declaring things, right, over my day, over my world, and it's feeding things in me to get me prepared, right? And then I have like different U-verse plans that I'm doing, and I'm diving into scripture. And then I'm praying. Like I'm doing the foundational things that for me, and again, not everybody that listens to your show might be Christian, which I am, and so they may have other things that they do. And so what I say is find out what works for you. What
Mhm.
does that thing, first thing, what do you need to tap into to be able to set your day up properly? Okay, and so again, for me, that's what my day looks like, and then I have all these other things like getting kids ready. When you have six kids like we do, there's people have to get ready for school and have to get the bus stops, and so I'm being the best dad that I can be during that time. And then I know I'm getting ready for calls, probably a gauntlet of calls for about 6 hours with clients and prospects and things like that. So again, it all starts in the beginning, and it all starts with, where are your intentions? What are you putting inside? Because usually that is what's going to come out, or it's going to soften the blows a little bit, because it doesn't mean that some fire is not going to start to manifest itself because it got hot somewhere and now there's a fire. And guess what? I'm the firefighter, so I've got to go fight that thing, and
Mhm.
I better be prepared when the fires and the flames are blazing, because it's going to get hot. But again, it's knowing that, and when you have that firm foundation to stand on, and you set your intentions right, and you know where you're going, then that is super important to be able to navigate everything that's on the trail.
I love that. So what kind of dog do you have? Just curious, because I'm a dog
He's
lover.
an American bully.
Oh, okay, awesome,
Yeah,
awesome.
almost a year old next month.
Okay, that's good. That's actually one of the hardest moments in my life. We had gotten a dog. My husband was dealing with depression, and we got a dog to help them, like get moving. Like you said, your body up, get moving. And then we got another dog, and then we got another dog, and but when he was dealing with his hard times, I would take one of the dogs and would just go for a walk just to help me move my body. Because when people are, maybe not in the best moods all the time, they're going through depression. Sometimes you can't be stuck in that rut. You have to take care of yourself too. And I think that's all so important that you start your day by moving your body. I think that's really important. And then getting your spiritual, the word in and listening to Christian rap. Do you break dance to Christian rap?
Yeah, yeah, I do. So my group is called Freestyle and Philippians. It's
Oh,
so
I love
funny
that.
because like people think it's a joke still. I've done it for like 2.5 years, and people still are like, haha, yeah, that'd be a cool. And I'm like, no, seriously, like you come to my garage and I teach you how to break dance. And so, and it's one of those things where, being able to incorporate things, like it's kind of like cultures or worlds colliding, right? I can take
Mhm.
scripture and I can take Jesus. And then I can also like listen to Christian hip hop and freestyle and breakdance, which is an art form, right? Again, we're called to be creative. And for me, that's the one of the most creative spaces that I'm in is when I'm doing groundwork or windmills or even teaching people how to do different things. Like it's my element, it's like I have a passion for it. I've done it since I was 14 years old. I used to do competitions. I taught it like at outdoor school, when we had that. And so I just love it. I enjoy how freeing it is to just be creative and make things up. And then I also love the physical aspects. It's all calisthenics. So you have to have good upper body strength and good muscle memory, but also breakdancing helps you in basketball, right? If I fall, I never fall. I just go down to groundwork and I get back up on my feet. So having agility, being able to kind of think on your feet, the just a free flowing movement, all of that for me is something I just really, really love. It lights me up, it fires me up. I mean, you saw I was just kind of doing a couple waves like it's Brooks' event because I was hearing music, I just can't not move.
I love how that you took elements like of like your childhood and all the like the all the great things that like the break dancing, the sports and all of those types of things, like watching sports with your mom, all of these great things to build your brand and build who and what you want. Because like I know that it's not always easy. I know that you have hard things you go through, but you have a joy in what you do. And I think that's so important. And so how did you come up with the brand that you have today? And how did that work? Walk us through it.
Yeah, so growing up in Portland, Oregon, my hometown team was the Portland Trailblazers, and so I've always had a passion for, thinking about people that have blazed their own trail, Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, some of these prominent figures that Lewis and Clark, they went against the grain, they did things that no one else did and they truly blazed the trail and like the underdog. Like I've just always loved that. And so I was like, hey, maybe I can combine my love for my favorite hometown team with trailblazer, blazing trails. And so I was like, oh, blaze your own trail, and it was interesting because this picture behind me, I think you can see it says blaze your own trail, and there's a eagle, and you see that there's a cage that's open. And
Mhm.
so when I was leaving, I spent 15 years with the same property management company. I came in as a greenhorn leasing agent that knew nothing about the industry. 15 months later, I went from leasing to property manager, managing multi-million dollar buildings and teams, and I eventually led teams of up to 25. And then I spent 8 years in training and development. So it turned into this whole 15-year career. And when I was leaving, my training team, we all had a call, and I told my boss, I said, "Hey, I want to be the one to deliver this. Like they deserve that much. That these people have like fed into me. I mean, they just meant a lot to me." And Pablo, one of my colleagues, he said, "Hey, I just want to tell you, I don't know if you've ever heard the story of the eagle." And I'm going to ad lib this just for time's sake for your audience. But basically, there was an eagle that had ended up, getting mingled into a chicken farm. And so he looked like an eagle. He walked like an eagle. He was colored like an eagle. He had big eagle wings, but he thought he was a chicken. And so he started to eventually identify as a chicken. He walked like a chicken. He talked like a chicken. He kind of did the waddle like a chicken. And one day the farmer said to the eagle, he said, "Hey, you're not a chicken. You're an eagle, and you need to go and spread your wings." And he's like, "No, sorry, I'm a chicken, listen to me, I sound like a chicken." And so the farmer one day took him to the very top of the mountain and said, "Hey, this is actually where you're meant to be. This is what your purpose is. You're supposed to be, you're the eagle. You're the one that's supposed to be looking and soaring and spreading your wings." And of course the eagle, chicken eagle, right? Keeps saying, "I'm a chicken, I'm a chicken." So he kind of like he's like, "Oh wait, look down there," and he just kind of nudges the eagle, and then the eagle starts falling and eventually spreads his big eagle wings and flies off, And so Pablo tells a story and he says, "Jordan, you're the eagle, and you're gonna go and blaze your own trail." And then about a week after I left, I get this big picture that they had all purchased, and what a beautiful depiction of that, right? Because it was
Right.
true. I was the one, they were all like, hey, if anyone was going to leave to go blaze their own trail and start a business, like it was definitely going to be you. You know, I'm definitely one of those like not great employees because I always have all these big creative ideas and none of them ever come to fruition because that's how corporate is. They're just very, very slow on change. And so I thought it was so cool, such a beautiful story and analogy. And then the icing on the cake, just getting that show up at my doorstep, it just was so meaningful. And it just said, I just knew that it was the right thing to do.
I love that. I love that, the people that you took what you wanted and you went out. I mean, after 15 years and then to go and start up your own business, I think that's amazing. Uh, it's scary, but it's something that I know that um, if you're, with, I'm sure you prayed on it and this is what God was telling you to do. And it was your purpose. You're
Yep.
living in your purpose. And I think that's so important.
Yeah, it was
Some,
about the impact, honestly. And yeah, Angelina, was about the people that were telling me literally that how their life was impacted. And in those moments when I kept hearing this positive feedback and people like they were graduating a leadership program and in tears because of the impact that was created. And I just kind of thought to myself, like, is this it? Like you're just gonna impact 20 people a year and like have this fancy meal and like is this really all that you're gonna do? You know? And I was kind of like started to get motivated, like, man, if I stay here, then like yeah, I this is all really all that I'm gonna ever do. Or I can leave and go impact far many more people all over the world and have a bigger impact. And that's really what kind of set it for me is I knew that that's what I needed to go do. I couldn't just live in this corporate environment with my 3% raises, coaching people and having it be fulfillment for me, you know? And so recognizing that and seeing that and getting feedback. And then, of course, I had had a year of my podcast under the books, and I was hearing from amazing people like Heather Monahan, who's like, Jordan, like you can do this, you should start your own thing, and other great individuals like David Meltzer and people I was interviewing that just kind of gave me confidence, right? Like I was borrowing confidence from them, and it helped me realize a year later that hey, you know what, this is really the right thing to do.
I think that's awesome. I kind of did something a little similar. I was in Brooke Hemingway's mastermind, and I felt like I was stuck, like where I was at in my job. Like, and I looked at it and like I want to do great things. I worked for the Department of Defense. But I was like worst case scenario in 2 years I would max out, but I still had like 15 years left to retire. Or I could go and look for other jobs, and I ended up looking for another job and. Um, it's crazy because I fly back and forth from the West Coast to the East Coast a couple of times a month just to do this job. But I felt like what an impact I can make on the world and it also allowed me to start my own podcast and it allowed me to start my own business on consulting and helping others too. And I think that sometimes we have to borrow belief in others and see what others tell us and really hold on to that and just pray to God. And it just sets up a whole new world that you wouldn't even think it's possible. But it's not easy and it is scary, but if you have a firm foundation, you rely on your faith. I think that it is possible. So I think
Yeah,
that's
that's so
important.
true. And also, one thing I didn't mention is I also joined a business group when I first moved down to, we bought our house in 2017 down here in Gwinnett County, Georgia. And I joined a business group. And so for 7 years, I was going, even though I didn't have a business. Of course, I had a lot of crazy ideas, a lot of things I wanted to do, but I got to go and rub shoulders with the giants, if you will, right? People that had multi-million dollar businesses. One guy had like 7 auto body shops, like doing millions in revenue. Other people, landscaping companies, and one guy had multiple companies. And so when you can rub shoulders, proximity is power. When you get around people, I eventually started to realize that I actually have advice for them. And that lit my confidence up, right? And so they were there to support me and say, hey, I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do my thing now. And they're like, no, you're not ready yet, right? And they kind of held me back a little bit. But when it was time and I said I wanted to do it the next time, they all said, "Hey, we think it's time. You're ready." And man, when you can have that support system, the ecosystem of people that have been there and that done it, they have already failed, and they can basically say, "Hey, you can do this." And even if you have a bad month or a bad quarter or a bad year, which is going to happen, they're
Mhm.
still there to support you. and they're there for you to be able to lean on them. And so that's something that, having mentors, having coaches, having people in your corner, and making sure that you invest in you, because if you don't invest in you, other people aren't going to invest in you. And so that's so important, that I just want to mention to your audience is make sure you find somebody or some people that are willing to invest in you with their time. It may cost you something, it may cost you something monetarily, but it's going to be worth it, especially if they have your best interest in mind.
I think that's so important. I always tell people, you need to put yourself in the room as much as you can. You need to, because you never know who you're going to meet. And if you can't afford to be in that room, look at a way that you can maybe volunteer, help support, be on the team, help put the event together, whatever you can do. If you really want to grow, you can make a way to make it happen. You talked about it from a young age. You were an entrepreneur out there collecting, the cans and all that stuff. I remember doing something very similar and working, babysitting and finding whatever I could do to make money. Because I wanted, I had goals, I had dreams, and I knew that if I wanted to do this, I had to take care of me to, bring the money in for me to do what I needed to do. And so I think that's so important. And it creates ownership. Like you feel pride in what you're doing. And I think that's so important as well. Talk to me a little bit about how you grew so fast on LinkedIn.
Yeah, so it happened. It was kind of like an unexpected detour, right? So like I had a goal from my boss. I was down in Florida, and he's like, "Hey, I know you're good at this social media thing," because I had built, I built my Facebook up, and I had built up Twitter. I've always just had a knack for when a platform comes out, figuring out how to build audiences, how to create community. I've always done it, even before I had, a business teaching people how to do it. I've just always been kind of natural at it. And so he said, I want you to find a platform where we can get our internal associates involved on social media. And so I went to like Facebook and tried groups and was like, yeah, this is probably, they're not going to go to Facebook. And then I went to Snapchat and I was like, I can't figure this platform out. There's too many filters and weird stuff, and that didn't work. And I went to Twitter and maybe creating a group there. And then I got on LinkedIn, and this is in 2019 when video first came out. Now video is back, but it's more like a TikTok feed on the platform now, that they're just rolling that out to the masses. But this is when regular video first came out, and I posted my first video. And I'll tell everyone that's listening to this, like, I was so afraid to post it, even though I was just asking a simple question. I just had this fear of like, who's going to watch this? Like, what were people going to think of me? I think I did like 12 different takes, and I finally posted it, and it got 5 views, and all of them were me because I kept rewatching the video. And it was just bad. It was like monotone. It was me not even really looking to the camera, and I was asking for people uh, for help with social media and how to get people engaged in it. So it's kind of funny when I think back to that. Now I actually help people do that exact thing,
Yeah.
consistently on multiple platforms. So it's just funny when you look back at where we were, where we started, and then where you can actually get to. And so that turned into more videos, and it turned into me meeting my mentor, Brian Schulman, who gave me some of the best advice that I've heard to this day, which is, hey, take the pressure off yourself, Jordan, and just try to inspire one person a day through your content. And if you can do that, look at the math, 365 people a year. And if they inspire one and they inspire one, and just so I did, I took the pressure off myself. And he also told me, you're going to have a bigger brand than me one day. I mean, he just had all of this belief that I borrowed from him, because I sure didn't have it at that point, but I borrowed it. And I said, all right, well, this guy says I could do it. I know how to talk. Like, I just need to figure out how to look at this stupid camera, right? Because I didn't like it. It was weird. But everything you start at, guys, you're not going to be very great at. Okay. Some of you might be naturals. Like, I pick up some sport really quickly, and other ones I look like a complete idiot, right? So, but again, give yourself grace. Understand that everything is about the reps. You've got to put reps in, and you're going to get better. And I got better, and people started watching the videos. Hey, that was weird. They started viewing them. They started liking them. And then this weird thing happened where people started commenting and sharing them. And it created this big effect to where from April to December, I went from 7,000 connections or followers to about 20,000 by the end of the year. And of course, when you experience growth like that, you're like, what the heck? Like, how did this happen? Right. So I had to really reverse engineer what I was doing and figure out, okay, what did I do first? Well, I made sure my profile was optimized and didn't even know what optimization was at that point. But I was like, I did these things, and that started changing the amount of people that were coming. And then I started putting out content on a consistent basis. So I was essentially building the first version of my program, which is my 12-week program, which now is actually I've collapsed timeline to 6 weeks, and I'm helping people in just 6 weeks get similar results to what I did. And again, it's not just about building an audience; it's actually teaching my clients how to not only optimize their profile, how to actually create content that attracts their ideal clients, how to grow their audience, and then most importantly, how do we turn this audience into paying clients? And so that's the framework that I teach. And it's so cool when I have clients that just get immediate results and they start, it's such a cool impact for their business to see that as long as they do the work, they put in the reps, they show up, they have a good foundation, that they too can have similar results. And so that's what I love doing today, is helping people through that, leveraging the stories, the setbacks, all the things that we look at sometimes as either taboo or like, who is going to want to hear this? Like, again, it's not about having people feel sorry for you. It's actually about creating context. It's actually about creating emotional relevance, because um, if you can story tell well, and if you can, get people to where they feel like they can actually relate to you, it actually makes business a lot easier after that, right? Because we have this connection point, and they see that, okay, this person is actually a human, right? They're not just this person on social media or this ad. They actually are somebody that I might want to connect with, right? And it just makes it so much easier when, again, I always tell my clients, be as vulnerable as you want, but just make sure you're telling a great story, because that's what's going to resonate with people.
No, I love that. And I think that that's like what you said. I mean, telling the story and having those connections where people want, you are a human person. We all put our pants on the same way. We all do all these things. And there's where it's from afar, we may look at like, oh, this person has everything, it must have always been easy for them. But you said you got to put in the work, you got to do the reps. And at first it may not be pretty, but if you're consistent and you do it and you show up every day, it'll make such an impact. And I love that. I think that's so inspirational. When you talked to us about LinkedIn, I was like, my about was something, what didn't actually, my about was, I don't even think filled out that day. And when you explained how we should share about it, share our story, I was like, okay, I got this. And my numbers, I still have to fix the number one thing that you said, to fix the banner. I still got to do that. But um, my impact already has went up tremendously just from fixing my about and telling
Oh, I
the
love it.
story.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Have you got any feedback on it from people?
Yeah, some people are asking me a little bit about it, like how did you get to where you are today? Um,
That's great.
so yeah, I just got
Awesome.
to do more, do the work.
That's
I
it.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that's so important, is a lot of times we just we look in awe at people and we don't understand that we can do the same thing. We just have to do the work and
Yeah,
take the
it's
time.
context, right? Once you get the context, then you can go apply it and execute. But, if you don't have the context, then you just feel like, I don't know what I'm doing. How am I ever going to figure this stuff out? And so that's why I'm so passionate about helping people, right? Is because, like, I don't know what I don't know, so I have to invest in coaches to help me. And it's the same thing for my clients. I'm like, hey, if you don't have the information, you can get it, you can get access to it. You just have to be willing to ask for the help. And I know for me, like, I got in my way a lot because it's not easy to ask for help. It's one of those things that we look at as a weakness, but honestly, it's a strength when you can say, hey, I don't know this, I need this information. Like, you mind getting on a call with me? Do you mind helping me? And so for those of you that struggle with that, give yourself permission to ask, because you have no clue what's on the other side of that one potential ask.
Oh yeah, that's so good. Um, speaking of, I mean, you built your brand, you built all these things. You left you went to set up your company, all these things. I wanted to know, what is your future vision for yourself? Well, what kind of legacy do you want to leave for your family?
Yeah, well, I'm in the process of building that, as we speak. What's exciting is, ever since I jumped into full-time entrepreneurship in 2021, I now have businesses on 3 continents, and that's something that, if you would have asked me, when I was in high school, or if you'd asked me even when I was in the middle of my corporate career, like, hey, do you ever think you would like have businesses in 3 continents? I would have been like, you were crazy. No, there's no possible way. But I share that because it just shows you what's possible in a very short period of time when you're living in your purpose, when you are putting yourself out there, when you are truly understanding and are self-aware about who you are. So your strengths, your personality, are you focusing on, increasing your emotional intelligence on a consistent basis? There are lots of things, personal and professional development tools that have helped me on my journey. And then, of course, having support system, having faith. And so it's this whole ecosystem of things that from the outside, like you said, look very easy when people are saying or talking about it, but it really is a lot of work to have all of these components working like a well-oiled machine. And so, you may be at the beginning of your journey where you're like, hey, I don't even know what the name of my business is going to be. And that's okay because you can figure that out, right? You might be in a place where you're like, I have all the things you talked about, but my revenue is staying in the same place? And so again, how do you get from here to growth and from the other one to where there's a shift? Well, it's all information, and unfortunately we are in information overload in 2024. There's so much of it out there, and so we have to truly filter through it. And so I always tell people, whether you work with me or you work with someone else, you have to be curious and you have to invest in seeking out information, because the only way to know is to actually go through it, test somebody out, see how they work. And for me, my goal is always just to over deliver on value. So that's one thing my clients always say is, you make the complicated seem easy. So it's things that they were making a big fuss about. I'm just like, oh, just do this, this, and this. And they're like, seriously, you know? And then also, like, I just over deliver, meaning I want to give you more than someone's invested in my business. I want to give them, 4, 5x a return on that, because I know what the fruit of that will be in the long run.
Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. I did a time management coaching, because like you have to figure out like I was thinking, like I want to do another business or do a business. What do people ask me a lot about? And they're always ask, how do you do your time? How do you're always able to do this, this, this. And I'm like, it's time management. So I made a course on it. And my first people were beta testers. I over delivered, and then I just like I see what they're doing, and then I up my price. And these other people, they're like, oh my gosh, this is the first week and we have all this stuff already. I'm like, oh, we're just getting started, honey. Like, and it's good because people will tell others about what you're doing, and that also, building those relationships, that's another form of like advertisement, and it also helps spread the word of what great things you can do. So I think that's so important. We're going to wrap up pretty soon, but I would love to know, um, so your vision, you're building it now, your brand and all the things are.
Yes, yeah. So I've got obviously Blazer Entrepreneurial Consulting. I've got the podcast. I have a company that I partnered with. It's in Mindanao, Philippines. It's called VConnext. And I have another company that I'm part owner of in Belgium. It's called Waso, and it's a prop tech solutions company. I've been working on that project for a couple of years. And then I have a couple other businesses. I have a 3D printing business with a buddy that's a local business, part owner of a fishing company. So I have multiple businesses, and with 6 kids, it's like, okay, need to have at least one business for each one. I think it's that's kind of the goal, but ultimately, it's one of a couple of the things that are in our 24 to 25 goals is we are looking at land. We actually want to either build or buy land, 5 to 10 acres, and I want to build a podcast studio, have my business actually located on property, have an office, and really create an environment, kind of like a retreat-esque environment where I can fly clients in to come work with me, do strategy days, do in-person podcast interviews, create a lot of content, and then, kind of document the process of taking care of this property, building it. I don't know what kind of crazy stuff it will do, but that's, on our goal sheet. And then also, I want to create a nonprofit. It's actually called Blazing Hearts. And so it's just us being able to give back to the local community. We do it through our church, and I was like, okay, well, it's great we do that, a couple times a year, but what if we could have, a philanthropic arm, a way that we can give back, and so that's something. And then another project that's in the works is my first solo book, which is called How to Blaze Your Own Trail Despite Your Circumstances. I'm so excited about that project. Should be released end of October, early November. Kindle will be first, and then we'll go soft and hardcover, and eventually I'm gonna self-record the audio version of the book as well. So excited about all those things, and all of those are really truly to create legacy. So
I think that's amazing. I think that's awesome. And love that, it's not just one thing, it's multiple things. And I think that people get so tied up and think that they only need to have one stream of income. But if the pandemic and all the things have taught us anything, multiple streams of income is where it's at. And that's awesome. And you can manage it all and still be there. Like you said, you go and you still do your walk in, you take care of your self-care, you take care of your time with God, you take care of making sure your kids get to school and helping your wife with all the things. And so you can do it all without feeling like you're like without the overwhelm, as long as you plan it out, you're careful about it, and you're very strategic about what you're doing. And I think that's so important with the clarity, and you're finding joy. You love what you're doing. And I think that's so important.
yeah, I don't
So
ever work. I just have fun.
yeah,
When you're having fun, it's like, it's okay, this is not even work. And so I actually love what I get to do every day. When I wake up, I'm happy, and I know that I get to go help people solve their problems, and figure new stuff out, teach them things, coach them, kind of pull them out if they're in the dumps, like pick them back up, and that's like a lot. Those are actually a lot of my strengths, being able to motivate, coach, communicate, so it's like figure out what your strengths are, folks. There's a great resource. If you want to add this to the show notes, Strength Finders 2.0, it might be called Clifton Strengths. Grab a copy of that, take the assessment, find out what your strengths are. Because again, if you get information like your 5 strengths, and then you go and you say, how do I get my strengths better? How do I invest in them? And then what's going to happen over time is you'll strengthen your strengths. And if you're living in your strengths, I tell you this, you're going to be a lot happier every day. So for me, the fact that I get to do this, I get to talk to people, get paid to speak to people and teach people for a living, it's like it's almost silly, because it's not hard for me, because it just comes second nature. And again, when you have those firm foundations to stand on, plus you're living in your strengths, and you're joyful and you're passionate, your days, again, it's not like I'm gonna have fires I don't have to put out, but they're going to be a lot easier to deal with when you have those ingredients.
no, I think that's so important. I recently took my, I think it's Gallup Strengths or Clifton Strength testing. I just did mine with the new job that I took on earlier this year, and I was like, oh, this explains everything. And once I started applying those strengths, and I was like, and really went into it, because one of mine's a ranger, and I look at things productivity. Like I used to work in production manufacturing for 25 years, and I would look at something and figure out how do I can make it streamline it, right? And I was like, oh, this is a gift. And I need to keep doing using the gifts that God gave me, because I'm really good at this. And then I think I have positivity, connection, belief. I think that's I think that's the 4 or 5. I don't remember. But those are the ones I
That's
know
great.
that I'm
Yeah.
happy on. So that's
Yeah. And
awesome.
it's important that you know them, right? That way you can tap into them, and you can read more about them and see how they can integrate into everything that you're doing.
Yeah, I love that. Before we wrap up, though, I would love to give my viewers a phrase or a word or some type of call to action for my listeners, something that you want them to do today.
Yeah. I think I just want to maybe shift their perspective a little bit. So I want to leave them with a quote. And this is something that I was standing in the bathroom, and my wife was standing there, and I just come up with random stuff sometimes, and I just write it into my notes, and I wrote it into my notes on my phone, and I showed it to her, and she's like, yeah, that sounds like you. And so what I wrote down on my phone that day was, the struggle might be real, but the good news is that every struggle has a free gift called a lesson. And so, you're going to have struggles, whatever it is you might be facing. But if you can extract what the lesson is in it, then, it's going to be a lot more valuable to you.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. I'm going to leave all your links, all the things in the show notes. But I truly enjoy talking to you. You are such an inspiration, and everybody needs to go get that book when it comes out. And I just wish you nothing but the best. And congratulations to you. You just had your 6th child. I mean, that's just amazing. And you're happy. You're not tired. And so, thank you so much.
I wanted to say thanks so much for having me on, and you did an incredible job as a host. So keep up the great work. I know this to you it's a new venture, and it could be scary when you start something new, but I just want to tell you that you're doing great. So keep up the great work. And to your audience, you all too can blaze your own trail. If I can do it, for sure you can do it, So go out there and don't be afraid to fail. All right.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Refine and Shine. We hope you find valuable insights and inspiration to fuel your journey of continuous improvement. Remember, the key to success lies in refining your processes and letting your inner brilliance shine. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your feedback is greatly appreciated and helps us reach more listeners like you who are eager to refine and shine in all areas of life. Stay connected with us on social media for updates and additional resources and behind-the-scenes content. We love hearing from our listeners, so feel free to reach out with any suggestions, questions, or success stories you'd like to share. As we wrap up, remember that the power to transform your life lies within you. Keep striving for growth, embracing change, and seeking opportunities to refine your skills. Together, let's continue to shine bright and make a positive impact in the world. And until next time, keep refining and keep shining.